large-scale frustrations of working in the deep sea is water absorbs electromagnetic radiation quite effectively. So all the places we would end up using radar or even LiDAR or things like that in air or space, we can't use them here. They don't, the electromagnetic light waves do not propagate well in water. So everywhere you'd think you'd have Wi-Fi or something like that in the deep ocean, we have to use sound. And sound travels at a fraction of the speed of light, and generally gives us lower resolution things than light does, light and radar. So everywhere, it's one of those things that makes ocean exploration a little bit harder, is we have to use sound waves for all of this.
Pushing again there for us, Amber.
All right.
Brian, is the side scan sonar using high frequency sound?
Yep.
How does it create this incredibly detailed high resolution image?
If Chris has got the time, he's the expert, so I might throw that to Chris.
It uses, this runs at 400 to 700 kilohertz, which is pretty high for this sort of system. I think they peak out somewhere around 1200 kilohertz. But
sound.
Yeah. But the shipboard ones are in the tens or hundreds of kilohertz range. So this is much higher. So you can kind of think of, the way I had it described initially to me, that I think is a pretty good way to think about it. It's like the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelength. It's kind of like trying to map the side of a corrugated barn. If you throw beach balls at it, they'll all come straight back, right? And you'll get no sense of the texture of the barn. If you throw golf balls at it, they'll reflect off in every direction, because it's like, and that's analogous to the much shorter frequency, so you can resolve the much smaller features just because the frequency is higher, the pulses are shorter, and you can just match the frequencies, the time that it takes for them to bounce there and back.
What great analogy.
So the shorter wavelength, shorter frequency, lower frequency.
Higher frequency corresponds to lower, higher frequency corresponds to shorter wavelength.
And lower resolution.
Higher resolution.
Higher resolution at higher frequencies.
High frequency, high resolution, yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
That's why the porpoises and whales use such very high frequency sound in order to identify and see their prey underwater with sound.
And you can actually cheat it by doing what's called a chirp. And speaking of dolphins and whales, that's kind of what you see there. By sweeping the frequency slightly, you can, when you hear the echo back, you expect to hear, it basically gives you more noise filtering capability, and you can like align things in space by basically hearing the echo of your chirp. If you just send a constant pulse, like a sine wave, just a single tone, you really don't have much of, there's no texture to the sound to help align it, if that makes sense, right? So they will actually sweep the frequency slightly. And if you hear, when we're mapping, you hear the sub-bottom profilers on, you'll actually hear it sounds like a bird chirping in the bilge. Yeah.
Sure.
So that's why it's doing that.
And so what we're seeing in this visualization at the bottom with the side scan sonar,
a bit there, Amber.
Copy.
Is that similar to what a whale or a porpoise would see in using their sonar?
Yeah, so, sorry, 1 second, I gotta push it, move in. Bridge nav, could we do 100 meters? Yeah, so the way that
push in, Amber.
A dolphin or a whale works is they emit a pulse through like a organ in their forehead.
That full zoom, is it?
No,
and it creates just a radial pulse.
Other little swimming critter.
And the echo comes back.
For the fish.
And they actually measure the. So we have 2 ears. You can hear what direction the sound's coming from.
That's full zoom.
But that's not. That only tells us left or right, right? It doesn't tell you. It's not very precise. They actually pick the sound up through their teeth. And the teeth forms an array of receivers, so they can very precisely figure out left or right whether the sound's coming. I don't think they can resolve things vertically very well, but left and right they can.
Through their teeth is the receiver. That's
at least for bottlenose dolphins. I don't know about all species or whatever, but yeah. But again, that's why they chirp their sounds as well. It gives more texture for the sound for them to match when they hear it, they echo back.
To visualize their surroundings and spot the prey.
That's right.
One last question. What's the farthest distance that we are aware of that whales have been able to communicate underwater using low frequency sound? I understand at lower frequencies they could really hear each other a long way off.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're across oceans, entire ocean basins, maybe further, because we were talking about it yesterday, there's something called the SOFAR channel. And
yes.
It basically functions as kind of like a, I mean, it's literally a channel for sound. It's a low sound velocity speed, and sound always refracts towards lower velocities. It bends towards lower velocity water.
So a layer in the ocean?
That's right. Yeah. So the sound will actually just kind of oscillate up and down as a big sine wave and stay in that channel and never bounce off the surface or never bounce off the seafloor. So it can actually just continue going forever and ever until it just kind of runs out of energy.
And whale sounds have been heard across ocean basins.
That's right, yeah.
Extraordinary.
One of the other interesting things thinking about long-distance whale communication is different populations of humpbacks trade sections of song. And so like you can actually track new inventions to humpback male songs, and it'll migrate around the world over the course of a year or two, where they can clearly different populations are at least hearing each other at large scales and potentially trading some individuals back and forth. But you know, if a new song is heard in the North Atlantic, within a year or two, the same units of that song can show up in populations in Australia.
So the Australians, the other families, other groups of whales are learning the song and mimicking it.
Correct.
So it's our own version of the Billboard Top 10.
Are you guys familiar with a company called 3D at Depth?
No.
Oh.
You should look them up when you get a chance.
What's the name again?
3D at Depth. They're some good old boys from our neighborhood, John. They have a patent on a LiDAR logarithm. It's becoming kind of the go-to. It's replacing too many circles.
There's too many fish to choose from.
You gotta prioritize. Fish run away.
It's a target-rich environment.
That fish looked like it had a longer tail.
Yeah, that was a halosaur. Yeah, we can keep going. We're seeing quite a few fish. Oh, there he is. There it is again.
Are they both halosaurs?
No, I think one was a mackerel and one was a halosaur.
Yep. One looked like a cuskeel, an ophidiid. The other one was a halosauridae.
Brian, what's our depth now?
We are currently at 1,707 meters.
We'll be near or at the top of the this ridge at 1,500 meters?
Yep, we might not get all the way to the very summit before we have to recover, but we'll get up more or less in that depth band when it flattens out. This is, I don't think I'd go so far as to call it a guyot, but it's kind of flat on top. So a guyot is a certain shape of seamount that has a very flat top that's been eroded away, and it's and this one is pretty flat, but still kind of has a slow slope up to a point. So
a guyot is like a mesa on the surface.
Exactly.
We have a question here from a viewer. Besides shipwrecks, have you found any other man-made things on the bottom these past couple of dives?
Yeah, we've seen several pieces of litter.
You can tilt down a little.
Marine debris.
Keep me in the middle of the
plastic bottles, aluminum cans, glass bottles. And then earlier this dive, we actually saw a shell casing from probably an anti-aircraft gun.
Maybe tilt down a little more because I'm at the end of my leash now. So Probably.
And that anti-aircraft shell casing is what led Chris to so wisely turn on the side scan sonar to allow us to not only see our environment more clearly, but to see if there are any other shell casings or debris from a sunken World War II warship in the vicinity. Because we're in the middle of an area where there were many major sea battles, aren't we?
Ah, camera.
My World War II history is a little bit weak or exactly where the sea battles were, but there were a couple major engagements at Peleliu and in Palau.
And Peleliu is one of the islands down south of Koror and Babeldaw. We are on the eastmost side of Babeldaw Island.
Peleliu is one of the states in Palau.
Yes.
And until I saw the Pacific, if you have not, anyone listening has not seen it, there's a superb series, I believe it's on Netflix, that was produced by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. It's highly accurate historically, it's beautifully done, and it's horrifying to see the scale of the just catastrophic World War II. The fight on Peleliu is one of the most vivid, and yeah, no, I didn't realize what a horrific battle that was at Peleliu, and the sea battles that preceded it were fought right here in this part of the ocean.
Yeah. Before I came out here, I read
we get a zoom on
E.B.
this coral.
Sledge's book. I don't know.
Are you ready for that?
That was the
Who's the author again? Say it again.
E.B. Sledge. He was a Marine. That was what.
Yes.
That was the book they based the Pacific on.
Yes.
Yeah, it was equally horrifying.
I think there's a lobster if you tilt down.
Yeah, he's one of the central characters in the series, and is the kind of the scholarly, quiet one that.
Yeah. 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 If you're into it, like, I recommend the book.
This is a black coral.
Yep,
This is a black coral.
We're looking through guides right now trying to figure out which black coral it is.
And you may notice that it doesn't look black, but they are called black corals because their skeleton is black. And I'm trying to figure out if this one is.
All right, well that is good enough for us to study the guides later. So why
Yeah.
don't we
I'm
keep
gonna
going?
reset you down.
Thank you.
Right there.
Word? I don't.
I was trying to get a shot of the lobster there if you want.
Oh sure. Yep.
Yeah, it's just hanging off that
The
branch
yeah,
there at the bottom.
didn't quite have Herc stable Mabel. Okay, let's try again.
Okay. There it is.
I'm hesitant to even hazard a guess at the ID. I feel like I always get these wrong.
It's
Little
saying
squat
hello.
lobster associate here.
Very nice.
For people just joining us, what is the benefit to the lobster and the benefit to the coral of the two living together?
We assume that the squat lobster benefits from having some protection and that it's hiding in a coral that is capable of stinging. And it gets it up into the current a little bit better because we think that this type of squat lobster is filter feeding. See all those little tiny fine hairs on its arms?
Right.
It's sweeping the current for particulate matter to eat. So it's kind of doubly beneficial for the squat lobster. The benefit to the coral is less clear. It may be a commensal relationship where the squat lobster is not doing any damage to the coral, but the coral may not be benefiting anything. It's more like think about a trying to think of a good example in terrestrial environment.
Camera's
Like
Come
an
here,
walking
orchid, right?
backwards a little.
So-
So go all the way down.
All right, we're good science-wise. So we're not sure if this is a mutualistic relationship where they both benefit or a commensal relationship where just the squat lobster benefits.
Could the lobster be cleaning off, like the ants on that tree in South America? The ants will live in the tree and protect it from predators. Could the lobster be sweeping off predators or keeping?
Keeping sediment off, absolutely. There is some good research in the Gulf of Mexico that has shown that the brittle stars and snake stars who live on the corals definitely do actively keep them clean, and that corals that were affected by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill that had resident brittle stars. That's new. We need to look at that, please.
Roger. Kill that move, Chris.
And
Bridge, nav, hold position.
definitely did better with having an associated brittle star living on them than ones that did not. So this is our
Looks
first
like
primnoid, I think, of the day.
Yep.
First what, Brian? I'm sorry.
Primnoid.
And
you want me
what's
to
the
take
common
out,
name?
Do you want me to take out some of the swing, Dan?
You know, I don't think we're going to sample
No?
this, so I think I just want to go look at it. I don't remember a common name for this one, for this family.
So
And you haven't seen
polychaete
this
there in the
on
water.
any other
Yep.
dives?
We've seen several of these, and I want to just confirm
Okay,
it's not an unusual looking bamboo coral first.
You can zoom all the way in, give them the polyps.
And when we zoom, what do you look at to identify the
Well,
species?
if it's a bamboo, we're looking for bands in the skeleton. For a primnoid, we're looking for sclerites, or look like little swords or something sticking out of the polyp, basically, which you can kind of see here. So yeah, I'm relatively sure this is a primnoid.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Oh.
Ooh, wow, look at that.
Well, hello.
Right there.
What is that?
Ooh, that's a type of polychaete. Do you remember the name for this one? Oh, it's going to bump into the
Whoa.
coral. Wow. Yeah, we
What,
haven't
Harold?
seen
What's
this
the
yet.
common name?
So it's a polychaete worm.
It's like a gossamer.
What is the name of this one?
Well, he is strange.
It might be a gossamer.
I'm pushing just a little for us.
You're running pretty low on tether there, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, we can
Almost
go
looks
whenever.
like a centipede or something.
That's exactly right. He does look like a centipede.
Oh, and there's a Metallogorgia too. So this might signal a shift in the octocoral community here, to pick up our first Metallogorgia and our first primnoid together.
And as the side scan sonar shows us, if
You
you're
don't-
watching online,
don't
you
have
can
to
see
turn
it's a whole
around.
rocky area.
Keep looking north.
We're moving into a very rocky
I need
area.
the tether. Okay, bring your head back to the north and just look all the way under, all the way up.
We got a question from a viewer. How does erosions happen in the deep sea?
Erosion?
Or the sediment?
Yep.
Great question.
Oh, here's another Iridogorgia and another Metallogorgia. So there are still, there's chemical erosion. So in some places where the water can alter the type of rock, you see some of the brown staining and stuff, and that's an altered iron oxide, almost like a rust. And then there is still current here, and current flow in some places is not nearly as strong of an impact as like a river would or rain would have on a terrestrial environment, but still can, over millions of years, cause erosion, just the current running over the rocks. And then, you know, in a less kind of normal definition of erosion, you do have mass wasting events, landslides and stuff like that will occur, especially in a tectonically active area like here at the junction of two different trenches. You will get, you know, earthquake events that can cause large slumps or landslides.
And a vivid illustration of that is, if any of the listeners are interested, to go to Google Earth and look at the slopes of Mauna Kea, the largest mountain on Earth, which is the island of Hawaii, and you will see off to the north, off to the south, large chunks of land that have slid off of the mountain and created, of course, massive tsunamis, and those undoubtedly occurred as a result of earthquakes. They could have slid off naturally because of gravity, but erosion occurs very rapidly when you have a landslide or a slump like that.
So that worm we saw earlier is a squid worm.
A squid worm.
Who are you?
A swimmer? Or
Not sure how to pronounce that.
no, it's not swimmer though. Okay.
Toothed
Let me turn the down lights off.
Copy.
Same.
Thank you.
374.
I would just write the genus.
666.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the porch for me. 374666.
And the side scan showed us we're moved back into a smooth area again.
Yeah, we've been seeing some of these dead sponges with these sort of wide bases attached to the sediment.
I wonder if they're on little tiny rocks or what.
Yeah, I don't know.
There are a few that will anchor in the sediment, but they're generally a hard ground.
So glass sponges that have that sort of bristly base, that's called lopophytus attachment. Learned that from Chris Keller a few weeks ago.
Chris, what is the range of the side scan sonar's ability to see at this resolution?
So, yeah, the sonar at the resolution is going to go down the farther away you get, right? It's just like moving your camera farther away from what you're taking a picture of, right? So if you're, things get blurry or things have fewer pixels the further away you go from them.
Okay, Chris, we can start going again, please. Thanks.
Yep. Bridge nav. Let's do another 100 meters. Due north.
Dan, can we look at one of these sponges we're flying over?
What's that?
Can we look at one of these sponges we just flew over?
Sure.
But yeah, long story short, the range, we can see out to about 200 meters with this.
200 meters either direction.
200 meters in any direction. Like, so if an object is 200 meters away from us, we can see it. But it does depend on the angle. So if there's if there was a vertical wall out to our left, for example, we could see that. If we couldn't see seafloor 200 meters out to our left.
I see.
The angle that you're viewing it matters a lot.
Or a shell casing 200 meters out.
Yeah, you're not going to see that.
Okay, but be a little close. Be a little closer.
Copy.
Ready for some more shell casings.
Yeah. The shell casings we could probably pick up within maybe 15 meters to either side at this altitude, and
okay,
we'd have to go a little higher to expand the range. So that's sort of the difference between. So this unit is actually a multi-beam sonar.
Right.
And it has a side scan functionality. So like multi-beam gives you the 3D data.
Can we get a little closer?
Gives you the backscatter data. But side scan works when we're running this in side scan mode. We get backscatter data.
Can we see the base?
When we're closer to this, further out when we're closer to the seafloor. So that's when you saw that waterfall sort of at the bottom earlier. Right, that's what we were looking at.
Thank you.
We good?
Yep, good.
So what is this?
A glass sponge, broadly. I'll have to go figure out what family it actually is in.
Strange to see a glass sponge out in the...
Yeah, it was one of the reasons I wanted to look at the base and see how it was attached.
Did it find a little rock or something? Or how was it attached?
Sorry, Amber, what?
How was it attached at the bottom?
I couldn't quite tell. Like some can live in sediment, but most of the time we generally think there's a little tiny pebble or something that a microscopic small larval sponge settled on, and then either grows over the whole thing or the sediment then buries the rock.
Got it. Thank you.
And the sponge uses the silica essentially stalk to elevate itself above the mud.
in there.
Or anchor itself.
This might just be a plant. Oh.
I think it's
what
dead,
is
Jim.
that?
Isn't it a mangrove seed?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, my first guess was mangrove propagule.
Yeah, that is what it looks like.
What's the common name?
It's just the seed of a mangrove.
Oh.
I forget which kind of mangrove.
Okay.
Very common here.
All right, I think we're good. Thanks.
Roger, moving on.
That's the
Deep sea
seed.
botany.
Yep.
Chris, what's our off-bottom time?
We're recovering at 8, yeah?
Yep.
How fast do you think we can come up, Dan?
25 meters a minute.
Can we look at sponge, please?
Roger.
And we are at...
We used to only be able to do 20. We've been pretty good making 25. Okay, Amber, go ahead.
Okay, zooming.
So maybe about an
What
hour
are,
to
what are
surface?
those? What are those little black spots?
I think that's just some detritus that got stirred up by the prop wash.
Just did stirred up by the Hercules.
Yep.
That is what's known as ROV pilot error. So I'm trying to turn into what little current there is every time I land. You see it's going left to right.
Yep.
That's why I sweep around my head every time, because if I just land, the dust cloud of the pickup truck going down the dirt road at 60 catches up to us.
I'm going to throw out a guess that this is a rosellid,
Yep. That's
possibly
certainly where my brain was.
Crateromorpha,
All right, we're good, Dan. Thanks.
maybe?
Roger.
So yeah, Brian, it looks like we're maybe about an hour to surface.
Okay. So
We're going to have to see what depth we're at.
Sure, sure.
Like, we'll have to adjust that as we get closer.
I
but
don't think we're going to be much more than 100 meters shallower than we are now.
Yeah. All right. Well, then maybe we might need a little bit more. I think I estimated 1,400, but
so-
yeah, you're probably right.
1900-ish.
But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it as it gets close. And
Okay.
Train leaves the station and the train comes into the station on time. Or in this case, a bus, a yellow bus.
Can we zoom fish, I think,
think
right at
it's
the edge of the
another
light pool, or another
holothurian.
holothurian? Oh, you're right. It's another holothurian.
Where do you see a fish?
Top right. It's not a fish. I
Just
was
a
wrong.
holothurian.
It's just
we
it's
can keep
another
going. We've seen a million of these.
you don't want to grab a quick zoom for Jonathan?
Harold is done.
Well, we've done quite a few of those zooms.
Click a few highlights.
You got a really good example here of probably an echeurin feeding trace. See that hole in the center with all that disturbed sediment? So this throws a proboscis out and lays it out there and then drags it across the sand, collecting sediment to eat. Sometimes you'll see as you approach the worm rip its feeding appendages back into its hole. I've been watching and I haven't seen the worm yet. We've just seen the
That's really cool.
Leberpusin? What's
Lebenspuren.
Lebenspuren. One day I'll remember that phrase.
That's a great
German
phrase.
for
Yeah.
life trace.
So whatever the worm catches with that proboscis dragging it back in,
Oh, there's
he eats.
yeah.
Yep.
All of these feeding traces and mounds are so interesting. This is also sort of the domain of paleontologists, because these traces often get preserved in the fossil record. You can learn a lot about benthic ecology from looking at the depths of bioturbation within the 3D sediment environment and changes over time in the community.
Yeah, and that bioturbation is really important for moving oxygen into the sediment. As a general rule, there are plenty of exceptions to this. There are the deep sea sediments are not well oxygenated, so you have you very quickly lose oxygen in the sediment as you go down, and the worms and other things that bioturbate mix that up and flush water deeper into the sediment, and so you get oxygenation around their burrows, that, maybe half a meter or something below where the sediment's already gone anoxic, there's another little, oxygen area of sediment, oxygenated area of sediment that allows a different life thing. So these are ecosystem engineers that are making new habitat in the sediment by burrowing in there and helping mix water and oxygen through the sediment.
And for listeners that are not familiar with it, the bioturbidation refers essentially to the same process that earthworms do on the surface of the earth.
So that black coral looks similar to the one we saw just a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
and Asako Matsumoto has identified it as possibly a Trissopathes. And we've got a couple of Metallogorgia melanotrichus
Push in there.
and an Iridogorgia in the background.
And what are the common names for those, Harold?
Well, black coral, and then
The other ones that you mentioned.
a lot of these corals don't have common names.
Yeah,
The Iridogorgia, you could call a firework coral. That's one that has been thrown around. I don't know if we have one for
That's what I call it.
Metallogorgia.
But those are just different species of coral.
Correct.
Different genera, yeah.
Sorry, did you say something, Derek?
All right.
That's what I call it, firecracker coral. I make up a lot of my own names.
I mean, in some ways, like, because these animals, for the most part, have never been, only scientists and occasionally, like, oil and gas workers really encounter these creatures. They haven't had
Why
a
you
lot of
wanna
time in
insult me like that.
Why? There's no insult intended. There's only oil and gas and scientists that come down here on cable layers, I guess, that really come down in these depths. And it's only been the last really 170 years since Challenger, but honestly really the last 40 or 50 years that people have been down looking at these animals with in their natural environment.
Yeah.
So they haven't invented
Lots of
the
associates
common
on that
lexicon of common names.
Yeah. Maybe a few exceptions might be the black corals and the precious corals that are sometimes, or were more in the past, harvested for the jewelry industry. So those have been used for a long time by humans as decorative items.
And Harold tells me there's only a few institutions that have done studies where they put like a camera on the bottom and image an area over a long period of time to see how it changes.
Yeah, so earlier we were talking about cabled observatories, and these are places on the seafloor where researchers have set up, what is this? A jelly?
Yep.
Ooh.
Turn on that downlights for me.
Cool.
Coming right at us.
Wow.
Oh, look at the texture.
Wow.
The resolution and detail of this camera is just, oh my
Bonk.
God.
Hello there.
Extraordinary.
Watch out for that camera, jellyfish.
Yeah, to identify these gelatinous organisms, you have to have a really good camera, and you have to zoom in really far. And
Or just right
as,
in our
as you
own.
just saw, the jelly just
That is
is as
gorgeous.
close to our camera as you can possibly get. So
That is an alien creature from
Yep.
another planet.
So jellyfish are a type of cnidarian, so they're actually relatively close relatives to the corals, and that they have a similar style stinging cell, nematocyst, that is kind of a defining characteristic of the phylum.
Watch your tether, Dan.
Yep, watch.
How far back in history did the jellyfish go?
A long time. I don't know off the top of my head, but they are a very basal
Just
taxa,
let 'em
meaning
zip
that they're
out of the frame
pretty
there.
far down the tree of life.
yep, so they go back even before the Cambrian explosion, before hard parts became very common in the fossil record. So this would be
We can
probably
take a quick flyby look at the
the
anemone.
Ediacaran.
So jellyfish would have been among the first animals to ever appear in the oceans of the earth.
One of the first, yes.
Come
Okay,
down
now we're getting back into the
a
rocks.
few meters.
Seeing some more corals.
10 meters.
10
Down
meters?
Yeah, come down 10 meters.
We just need like a half zoom in. We can get, and then we can go.
Go ahead, Amber.
So what is this we're looking
That's
at
good,
right now?
thanks.
This is a sea anemone.
Have we seen one like this before?
I don't think I've seen this exact one yet. No. All right, we're good.
I'm gonna turn and burn here.
Yep.
I want to go up the rocks, but Atalanta's not cooperating.
No rocks for Dan.
So the reason I have you stay facing north, I need that extra length of Atalanta tether. And then when we do get drug, if you were turning halfway through the turn, it can pull you around the other way, put a wrap in our tether. It'll be that much sooner it gets hurt. So we'll actually, then in some cases, if I really want to see something now, I can drag Atalanta, 20, 40 meters if I want to. I just can't turn Herc when we're doing that. But we occasionally.
And Dan, for the folks listening at home, that you're keeping things moving in a northerly direction. The ship is moving north, and you're ensuring that Atalanta and Hercules are being aligned to the north as well. That's the reason you're keeping them headed north.
Well, the ship moves north, and then there's an Atalanta kind of pendulums behind it, and it obviously, we call it a sled for a reason. It gets towed, and then I have basically a 30, 35 meter radius around Atalanta that Hercules can operate in.
We got a question from a viewer.
But if
How deep do jellyfish live in the ocean?
Jellyfish, as far as I know, go all the way down.
Yeah, I think pretty deep. I have never read a bottom, but
turn the downlights off for me.
So, Brian, they're like sea cucumbers who could live at the very bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean.
I believe so, yes.
Now as I come back toward you, you need to come up fast.
Copy.
Sorry. I should have said something. I kind of
Buzz the tower.
hope you boogied there. Come right up to 20 meters. What's that?
Buzz the tower.
And of course tilt up as I go under. We'll check the tether.
There's such a diversity in feeding traces.
There's a secret here.
And holes in the sediment.
You can
you could do a whole analysis on
I used to be able to.
bioturbation here.
You need another dissertation chapter?
I use my left hand on the mouse and my right hand on the winch.
Straying pretty
Quite a
far
bit.
from the deep sea fish ecology lab theme.
I try to make it so you don't have to move the camera, but when we get behind, you gotta. My concern is when I come under that where the tether's behaving, there's no huckle in it because we've had it really loose. So occasionally it'll, as I come towards you, and if we're low, it'll do this, or the 1980s phone cord thing, which you probably don't remember, do you? Those old Princess phones, the cord was always tangled up on them when you picked them up.
Dan, I hate to make you feel old, but I barely remember that.
Oh, no.
We had one of
Wait, we have one right here, y'all.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow, look at that antique corded phone.
tilt up a bit on Atalanta for me.
Copy.
We had one of the young interns come out who is now working for Woods Hole as an Alvin pilot. One of the first things he said when he came in here was, "I love your vintage electronics."
He did. No.
Thanks, dude.
That
I built
red.
those.
Is that red?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was also he got to put on the survival suit as well at the meeting.
I think Jaden might get a double whammy with the survival suit.
Oh yeah.
Back to
Oh,
back.
yeah.
I have hope. I think the next intern that's coming on is an undergrad.
Oh,
So
nice.
it might not be me.
Score. Just a regular
You nailed it, by the
senior
way.
crew member
you
over here.
did. So next time you'll know to wear like Crocs or something you can flip off really quick.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
It
be
is a
ready.
drill. Yeah, last I heard from Randy, he's poking around up in the Arctic somewhere with Albert.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, he was very enthusiastic.
Can we zoom fish, please?
Sure. Can you pull the downlights?
The camera?
Downlights.
Oh, okay. Copy.
They're changing out for dinner over there.
Okay, yeah, we can do it now. All right, video watch change. Or dinner change.
Do you want depth maintained at 20?
You
then?
can zoom in on that fish while you're, if you can still hear me.
So this
That's
looks
good.
like another
Alright, thanks.
juvenile synaphobranchid. It's interesting that we've seen now 2 of these, I think, on this dive. 3.
Yeah, we saw some on our watch.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right,
What's
that's
going
good.
on here?
Thanks, Dan.
What's with all the,
Okay, you
the
can,
young synaphobranchid eels?
oh,
Well, we're getting to the top of the seamount, so it's getting fishy.
It's getting fishy. That's what we like to see.
I wonder how many fish we'll end up catching by the end of this cruise.
more than
There's
6,
another
hopefully.
fish.
More
The
than
fish density on this
We're
dive
going
is,
to double the amount of fish collections by Herc.
yeah.
Seen quite a few of these sponges. What are they perching on?
They're not perching on anything.
They got
they're
roots?
rooting in sediment, yeah.
I see their roots
So-
now.
It's called Semparella. It's a glass sponge in the family Pheronematidae. And they have very specialized spicules at the base that root down into the sediment, like, really nicely.
And Megan, the roots are not extracting any sort of nutrient out of the
No, no,
sediment.
not at all.
It's
They're
just for support.
They're just pieces of glass, essentially, that are in the sediment, keeping it spiked in place. They're getting all of their nutrients from the water.
Megan, do you have a sense of how they, when they recruit, how the larval transition into a soft sediment works for them?
I have no idea. I don't know if there's a lot known about how recruitment works in sedimented areas. But we always see that sponge in sediment, so there are certain sponges that specialize in growing in these sedimented areas.
What do you mean when you say recruitment?
So these animals have larvae that live in the water column, and once they get old enough, they settle out onto their preferred substrate. And we don't really know a lot about how some of these animals find these places where they want to live. And there's been some studies looking into that. So we call that recruitment, when they settle out from the water column onto where they are going to live their adult lives.
Process where they find where they want to grow is recruitment. Interesting. Why they choose that spot over another?
Well, that's the thing. We're learning a little bit more every day about how these animals, especially when they're larvae, sense their environment. We know that in shallow water coral reefs, larvae can sense their environment, and the sound actually has been known to attract recruits in the area.
Sound?
The sound of the reef. So like a really healthy reef has a very unique sound, and so
Interesting.
we think that the sound of the reef helps that settlement process.
The sponge knows a healthy reef is growing in an area where there's lots of food in the water and heads that direction to settle down and take root.
Somewhat. When you're a planktonic larva, you can actually control exactly where you go. You're not a strong swimmer like a fish. But they do have some ability to sense where they're going and where they're heading, and to make those decisions. We just don't know a lot about it.
And Brian, I think it was you the other night that told us, and I had not thought about it until you mentioned it, that the smaller the animal gets, the more difficult it is for it to swim through the water. The water becomes more viscous, essentially, and difficult for the animal to swim through. So as Megan says, these small, tiny larvae for these sponges, among the others that make the migration from day to night, it's really difficult for those little guys to get through the water.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. The smaller you get, the lower your inertial value, the harder it is to move through water.
Yeah, and speaking about sound and how animals might use that, there's a relatively recent field of study in the broader field of echotremology, or the ecology.
Say that again?
Echotremology, or the ecology of trembling ecologies. So there's a new term called the vibroscape. So it's similar to a soundscape, but it refers to all vibrations emanating from an environment. And earlier this year, I was working with some researchers that are kind of piloting this research, mostly in meadows and looking at more insects, but there's a lot of theories, not a lot of theories, but there are theories from some folks. One marine scientist, Louise Roberts, is working on trying to detect the vibroscape on the seafloor and how animals may use that. And what we mean by that is sound travels as like a longitudinal wave in a single medium. So sound in the water will move through water, but vibration travels at that boundary layer. So between water and seafloor, or water and air, or in a meadow between the meadow grass and the air, vibration will move through that matter. So some organisms actually don't listen to sound, but they actually feel vibration and use that mechanism to understand maybe danger is somewhere, or maybe there's a food source somewhere, or for mating. And it's known that animals as small as insects and to as large as elephants use vibroscape, their vibroscape to actually support their their ability to detect these
communicate. Understand elephants even communicate through their feet.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And that's not through listening, that's through vibration through
really cool.
The surface of the ground.
I've never heard of that before. How do you spell that? I'm trying to look it up and I'm not getting any results.
It's just echo, like ecology, ECO, tremology. And yeah, I've been working with Rock Sturm. He's kind of the leading researcher at the Slovenian Institute of the National Institute of Biology in Ljubljana in Slovenia.
And where? Slovenia?
Yep. And him and another researcher, Juan Lopez Diaz, the two of them have been piloting vibroscape science. It's really, there was a paper just, I think, in 2017 or 18 that termed vibroscape. And before that, there was an understanding that vibration was important to animals.
Vibroscape.
Vibroscape, soundscape.
Right.
Like landscape. So it's just the accumulation of vibration. Both anthropogenic and vibration produced by maybe geological or organisms.
One of many things I love about...
Is this lake growing back? Is that what we're seeing there?
Yeah, it's growing back an arm.
One of so many things I love about science is the more we learn, the more questions that we didn't even know existed it creates.
Yeah, and I think what really fascinates me about vibroscapes is that, there are these worlds that exist and ways of communicating that exist that we are not even aware of, and we may be impacting or even erasing them before we even know they exist.
Correct.
So, for example, there might be crickets and insects in parks that can't actually sense the vibrations through the matter that they exist in because of so much vibratory anthropogenic noise in a city or something like that.
Right.
So
makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So people are really interested in trying to make these measurements And I think in the underwater setting, it's quite difficult. But I am willing to bet, given what I know,
Push in
that
there.
this has a big impact at hydrothermal systems where seismic and sort of ground shifts, and also the way that chemicals are moving could be sensed through that layer by
What's that?
organisms. And
There's like a stalk
indicator
to the
to move
right
towards these systems.
with something on top of it.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Definitely
that.
going to try and read about that.
Yeah, I can share a bunch of papers.
Definitely.
I have a lot of.
Please do, because
Yeah.
Aaron, when you zoom in,
I keep failing to
zoom a
Google
little
it.
slower.
Oh,
It's like no
it's not
results.
echo like an
Slow-
echo, but
slow zoom
echo
in.
ECO.
ECO, like ecology.
Yeah, not like echo like
Right.
in a cave.
That is.
Echo
like a
tremology.
Ecotremology.
Like trembling, yeah. Echo
Well, certainly spiders
yes.
use that when an insect lands in their web, detect the vibration, and they know that's food and go right for
Push
it.
in a little more.
Later. Can't get too distracted.
It's good. Perfect. Thanks.
Nice.
Now, what is this
Now
animal?
what?
We're not sure yet.
Trying to figure that out.
Now, that's one. If it
Come up
stumps you,
5, Sarah, please.
Yep.
Up 5.
So it's
Well, I can see a gut.
got a stalk covered in hydroids, or
I'm pretty sure the stalk
rhizomes.
doesn't belong to the organism.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
okay, that's 2 organisms.
Could this be?
I think it's a relic stalk with hydroids on it, and then there's a hermit crab climbing up the stalk, but we're looking at the fleshy top that we're still a little stumped by.
I would say benthic ctenophore, but we don't see those pair of tentacles.
No,
The shape
it's
just
kind
isn't
of.
It's
quite
kind
right.
of spiky.
It's
I
got a
don't.
weird texture.
Yeah, the texture's not consistent with benthic ctenophore.
Yeah, can we
Should I stop
can
the
we
ship?
sample this one?
Sure.
Bridge nav.
We're going to have to come up another 5 there. So
Can we stop? Thank you.
Atlanta's going to swing over Herc, so come take that loop out of the tether there.
That
for me.
hermit crab has a
Megan,
very
that's
pretty shell.
definitely a
Instead of an
digestive
anemone.
tract. Whoever said
Yeah.
they saw a digestive tract, that's absolutely what that is.
You want to take the whole stock and put it in the box?
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
The stock will keep it negative.
Right. That'll be quicker too. So.
Remember, don't put it. What is it, urchin?
Yeah.
The danger.
Yeah.
Urchin.
Yes, we have
Urchin warning.
Yeah, we're,
Must not open up solitary confinement.
the forward box is off limits, so
Right.
starboard bio box C and D, the 2 smaller ones aft, are open.
We do
Can
like some
switch
zoom out.
over the camera, Sarah, and open the starboard, or get ready to
Stand
open
up.
the starboard. Do you want the hermit crab too?
Sure, we could try it. It might jump off, but yeah.
Is the hermit crab that little white?
And hit craft on the bubble
Yep.
cam for me.
It's got a white shell on it.
Gotcha.
And while we're whistling Dixie, if you want to move the HD camera to one of the other critters and zoom in on it. You'll have to open the box if you got that page up.
I bet the hermit crab pulls the ripcord as soon as he's movement.
Might.
We've got sort of a
Can open.
tornado going on behind the
Box open?
ROV.
Yep.
You see that?
Yeah.
That's
pretty.
wow. That's really
Oh,
cool, actually.
That is really
I've
weird.
never
Got
seen
going on?
anything like that.
Do you
If
want
you
the
see,
sample
well, it's behind the
follow
bio
on or
box
no?
now, but it literally looks like a
There's
twister.
a thruster vortex.
Oh,
That's amazing.
Sorry, which
Okay.
which of these are open?
The back 2 small ones, C and D.
Right.
Yeah,
The back 2 small ones.
the aft.
Right.
Aft.
urchin warning applies to which one, May? The box number 1?
The forward one.
box.
Come on.
You got a lot of current back there. You may want to lift off and float for a minute.
Right.
Yeah, I hope that was captured on the live stream. That was really cool. It really
Oh,
did
no,
look like a
that
tornado
camera
alley.
isn't on there.
tornado.
It's in the quad right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved it to the quad.
Oh, cool.
So they're seeing the feed from Atalanta on the quad view.
It depends which feed that they're watching.
Looks like satellite feed 3.
Yeah, so if they're watching
the sample box.
3, then they can see the sample box as well as both the main cameras.
Oh,
And they can
on
still
there.
see the side scan on the...
And the side scan, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, no.
Up.
It didn't go in the box, Stan.
No.
Nope.
Don't count your chickens till they're in the box.
Well, that mystery will have to persist for a while longer.
We might be able to
It
find
flew away.
Floated away.
Okay. Raj.
That's why I worry about putting little things in the side box.
I know.
I tried
Guess we-
to
Coral
Kind of
quivers,
slurp.
guys. Coral quivers. They're great.
I tried to get rid of that box and put a bigger one on the front, but we just don't have the... would have to take Herc out of operation for a while.
That's a pretty
Significantly
strong
reduce that.
current. You're dealing with a really strong current down there.
I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of having the like 4-inch diameter
Oh, There it
PVC
is.
Where do
that
you
has
see it?
each
I
one
saw
has
it
their own
on the
cap
port
on them.
side.
Port side? Awesome eye.
What was it? No. Where'd it go?
Yeah. I dropped a sample right here somewhere. You can tell.
Maybe turn to starboard.
Roger.
I think it's like, it's got to be behind us a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking, see where my green was on the nav screen, so I just drifted back a little, about half a Herc length.
Yeah, but it was a kind of floaty sample, so
And we were up quite a ways, so.
it might have
I have
come up and around.
I have
I don't know.
limited expectations of us being able to find it.
We found it in the first place by pure chance, so.
Yeah, I think
I also have
we could
limited
probably just keep
expectations.
moving.
Yeah, and if you look downwind, it may show up.
Yeah, that's what I tried to just let the ROV float the same way that the sample may have floated, and
Oh well.
sorry kids.
Yeah, I don't
It's
see it
okay.
anymore.
Yeah, we might see another one.
Oh no, I've never seen that before.
Well,
Wasn't quite sure what it was.
Those worm tubes are pretty common. It's just we don't know what was sticking out the top of it.
Well, it wasn't a tube.
I'm gonna come back
You
the
don't
way I
think so?
came, and I'm gonna drop real close to the
Yeah, I guess
seabed.
it could have
We'll
been.
take a run over it.
Well, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the same shape as a sea cucumber, but y'all never seen one attached to a...
Yeah, that's not usually what sea cucumbers do, and it was kind of textured in a strange way.
You can come down 10 meters now, sir,
Coming down.
or 5 at least.
I have seen a dead sea cucumber that I think was like partially eaten that got hung up on a stalk before that gave us quite some confusion.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's what that was, but
I've seen like those pelagic sea cucumbers get
Yeah,
stuck in corals.
totally. The
but-
Pelagotherias.
Not it there on the left, I guess.
No, I don't
No,
think that's it.
No, that stalk's thicker.
Well, this, I think, is about where we were.
Yeah. Well, it was the same color as the sediment, so it's going to be hard
Yeah.
to spot.
Yet another cryptid.
Yeah. Oh, well.
All right. Well, I vote we get the ship moving and keep going.
Okay.
Roger. I vote I go get pizza and ice cream.
Is it Sunday? Oh, it is Sunday.
I really thought it was Saturday. I'm so turned around.
I'm excited for ice cream.
Yep. And pizza.
And pizza.
I didn't know there was
The pizza looks pretty good today.
Yeah.
Especially the one with all the vegetables on it.
All right.
Is pizza and ice cream a Sunday treat?
Well, ice cream is always a Sunday treat.
Sundays.
Okay.
I don't know if you can call it a Sunday without toppings.
Fair. But the alliteration is nice.
It is nice. The Okeanos always busted out the toppings.
Yeah, they did true Sundays.
If only we had bananas on board.
Yeah.
Make a banana split.
There were bananas, but I don't know if we got a lot of them.
Can we look at this, please?
Sure.
Oh, that's a scleractinian that's living in the sediment. Do we want that?
Probably.
All right. Bridge nav. Can we hold position? Thank you.
Go for a zoom.
We saw, was that this morning on the same dive that we saw a couple of cup corals?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we saw two at the very beginning.
I don't think we've seen one in the sediment just yet.
No, Jake, we'd
I
like
saw one
to
earlier,
collect that,
but
please.
we were moving too fast. So I was like, hopefully we see another one.
We want to collect this?
Yeah,
yes,
let's
please.
Suction it.
Okay.
Yep, slurps.
All right, you can come wide on the video.
You want bucket cams, Jake?
Sure, yeah. Let's get that ready. All right, ready for suction?
Roger.
So it's probably attached. So you're probably going to have to bump it a little bit with the
There we go.
It was in the sediment, so it wasn't attached to anything. Nice. Bonk. There it is.
Got it.
Nice.
That was perfect. It's really pretty.
Okay, and that is sample 57.
57. All right. Bridge nav. Third time's the charm. Let's do 50 meters north.
What speed? 0.3?
0.3.
Nice. Fish? Somewhere? Shadow?
Oh, yeah. Bazazetus.
Push in. Oh,
Whoa.
never mind.
Too
Goodbye.
quick. Oh no. Okay, he's okay. Can we zoom in that coral, the orange?
Just below the lasers?
Yep.
Sure thing. Push in.
It's a sea pen. It's a peninsula.
Wow, it almost looks like a black coral from a distance.
Oh, it kind of does, but
Yeah.
it's in the sediment, so
Yeah.
it's kind of giving more sea pen, but you never know. There are some black corals that do root in sediment.
Yeah, you can see the stem here though, and it's that white
Yep.
proteinaceous skeleton. Very cool.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's great.
Come on.
So many of these beheaded sponges.
Yeah. But there are a lot of headed sponges, so, you know, that's the circle of life, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to know what is beheading them.
Well, they probably get old.
Yeah, I mean, they totally could just be dying, absolutely.
Yeah.
But also might be something beheading them.
Who knows?
The sponge reaper.
The sponge reaper.
Is this a different sponge here?
Yeah, that one is, well, formerly known as Sericolophus. I believe it has a new name now. Starts with an I. We call it the catcher's mitt sponge.
Oh,
we can
yeah.
zoom on it.
All right. Push in for a zoom there.
See if it's updated in the guide.
I have a sheet of hand-drawn pencil notes from Chris Kelly's little sponge crash course he gave us, and
Yeah.
and it does kind of look like that.
Yeah, this is one of
Yeah.
like Chris's favorite
Oh.
ones. Oh, there's a little ophiuroid on there.
Very cool.
They like to bail when they feel the ROV.
All right.
It's called Yyyy-mm-dd. That's the new name.
Chris.
Are
Who's
there
calling me?
animals that eat
Oh, you're
sponge?
calling me.
Brian? Is there animals that eat sponges?
There certainly are. Not necessarily wholesale, like eat the entire head off. I've never seen that, but yeah, there are we call them spongivores, and they're often mollusks and things like that, gastropods, snails, potentially even urchins will climb up on, can we look at this please? And eat them, but there's not a lot of tissue on sponges. They're very silica-y and not a lot of tissue.
It's like eating fiberglass insulation.
Yeah. So clearly some things can get some nutrients from them, but not a lot. Okay, that's... dead things.
Or you want to go to this top one here?
All right, that's good there. But while we're here, I want to look at the gelatinous thing on the stalk to the left.
Okay.
That is not what I thought that was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
So this looks very similar to what we just tried to collect and failed.
Okay.
I'm resetting your DVL.
Go for it.
Oh, we have...
So potentially another attempt at a sample?
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, this is definitely the same thing we were just looking at, but this has got a much better view. This is a tunicate of some type. So I get a better sense of what it is. Last time I couldn't even tell it was a tunicate, so I think we'll leave it here and continue on.
Cool.
So that's a tunicate on top of, or on a sponge?
It's some kind of stalk. I'm not sure where the stalk comes from, but yeah, that's a tunicate that is co-opted something else's dead stalk, and then there's hydroids and stuff living on the side of it.
Bridge, nav. Can we do 100 meters due north? Let's do 50 meters. So this is our last waypoint. Do we just kind of want to go up the contours after that, or?
Yeah, I think so. We'll just keep heading towards the summit, which I think is still a long ways away.
Yeah.
you get ice cream?
I skipped the ice cream. I had extra pizza.
Skipped it.
Pizza.
What?
Didn't need ice cream.
Do you think they'll save some ice cream for us after our shift?
Not likely.
Oh, man.
To be brutally honest. Do you not get dinner relief?
I did, but I didn't want to eat ice cream just yet.
You want me to bring you ice cream?
No, it's okay.
Okay, I can.
It's okay.
I think you need ice cream. I feel this for you. It's only once a week.
What is everybody's favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, chocolate peanut butter.
Napolitan.
Cookie dough.
You would?
Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Mine is mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, see?
Like cookies and cream.
Ayla was saying that's not a real ice cream flavor.
Mint doesn't belong in anything sweet.
You and my father agree.
Or coffee. Coffee ice cream. I love coffee.
Nah. I want coffee-flavored coffee. That's all I want. Anything else coffee-flavored, forget it.
Lame.
You're a purist, huh?
Yeah. Coffee's good. Why would I, like, I don't need other
Coffee's
things
good,
to taste like coffee.
And ice cream's good. Together?
Terrible.
Amazing.
I don't mix business and pleasure like that.
Not even an affogato?
Coffee float.
I never tried it, actually.
Affogato?
Yeah, they're good.
That could be maybe okay, because, like, you're not,
Cucumber?
the ice cream isn't coffee-flavored then. It's, like, in addition to the coffee.
Right.
Something, like, things in coffee can be okay. Skeptical, though.
Is this a sea cucumber?
Yeah, this
Push
is
in there.
this is a sea cucumber. Maybe something related to a Nerafanta.
Looks similar to one of the ones we got as a sample.
Great.
Very cool.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Come back, Glenn. How's Norbert doing?
You know what? I haven't even checked for a minute. Look at it. Still just orbiting away.
It's orbiting.
Look at them rocks. Look at that. We saw that. Hey, well, look, it dropped out for a minute. That's weird.
Huh.
That's... Enhance. Yeah.
Did we ever collect one of the little ravioli sea stars, Goniasteridae? Does that ring a bell with anybody? No?
I'm not sure.
So.
Okay.
Bridge nav, 100-meter step due north. Welcome back, Oriel.
Any sea stars, Ellie?
No.
No?
Not for
no sea
today's
stars.
dive, yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody sees a little white sea star hanging onto these rocks, we should stop for that. It's a possibility that that is one right there.
Oh, over there.
That's not a sea star, but let's see what it is.
Quick snap tune there.
Copy.
That
looks like a stock of a...
Yeah, exactly.
Decapitated sponge.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Spongivore on the loose.
Brutal. The tough ocean.
Ooh.
Not even the sponges are safe.
A nice Iridogorgia there. Metallogorgia coming up here.
All the gorges.
All the gorges.
Okay, we got a question for the front row. Has an ROV ever witnessed an earthquake?
Ooh. I don't know. Underwater in a place like this, if there was a big earthquake, it has the possibility of setting off what's called a turbidity flow. It's like an underwater avalanche where a bunch of sediment on the side of a slope gets destabilized, mixed in with water because of the shaking, and then it all just heads downhill. That
There's
right
a rock.
there, that's a rock.
Is that an anemone on the side?
That's a tube-dwelling anemone. That's called a ceryanthid. But these underwater avalanches can have a ton of energy to them, and there have been ROV dives after these events have occurred, and the water is very cloudy, and people have still seen debris kind of slowly tumbling downhill after them. But in Monterey Canyon, they had a bunch of seismometers out. They recorded the earthquake. This was it's a canyon off the coast of California. They recorded the earthquake, but then they had a number of seismometers. The 2 seismometers that were in the canyon got wiped out. They never saw them again. The avalanche came down and probably took them into deeper water, and they were gone.
Wow.
Sure.
You'll have to turn your comms up because I turn them way down.
Yeah, I saw. All right.
These headphones are more
sensitive.
Yeah, way more sensitive. I'm old and deaf. I need something I can actually hear people with. Keep checking this open, it won't come back online, but no such luck.
Running on tether.
I think you're dragging me, Cruz.
All right, yeah. I just saw the endless expanse and got the need for speed. It's like the salt flats out here.
You can do that, you just gotta do the ziggy-zaggy.
Ah, yeah.
East-west, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I saw you were zigging and zagging.
Yeah, if you got the time and it can, I just turn my head and kind of fly a famous scientist at University of Washington used to call it wagging your tail. So you cover more ground. Just kind of do lazy S's or whatever. You can also lateral.
Oh, you just were, yeah, swerving probably actually works better. You don't got a whole lot of lateral on this thing.
No, and if you fly slow, it turns left and right.
Yeah.
If you're lateraling sideways and you want to see something that's hard to come in and get a good landing, you wind up with your dust cloud coming from the side of you. And there's always a dust cloud.
Several more of these sediment-dwelling stalked sponges out here.
Easy way to judge your altitude on this flat stuff is that dark. I put the camera in some spot, and then it'll be brighter or lower.
Right.
Try and not have that dark band at the top when you're too high, or the camera's tilted up too high. Changes, of course, as you are flat or on the hill.
Another decapitated sponge. It's like a intro to a horror film down here.
I came across a kind of field of crinoids once, and a good 30–40% of them were decapitated.
Oh God!
Like something just swum along and bitten off the heads of all of them.
A can or something?
Looks like
Coca-Cola. Can we get quick zoom?
Sure thing, zoom in.
Yeah, keep going.
Looks like a battery.
Yeah.
Hitachi.
Huh. Cool. All right, full wide.
Full wide.
So Amber, that blast of Arctic air is not the Van B blower because I turned it off before I sat down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Icy over there, huh?
It's the floor unit, right?
It must be.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another of them worms things, right?
Yep, it's an Ecke trace probably.
With the German name.
Yeah, that
everybody forgets.
Again. Yep.
Except for Harold.
Spren is in there. I don't know.
Lieberspern, I think.
Lieberspern. Sounds right.
It's interesting, in these kind of thinking about sediment holes and stuff like that, there are a couple very specific geometric patterns that we find out here, mainly in the Atlantic, but is where they're better documented. But they're, regular repeating patterns that are larger than you would expect one organism to be able to make, but the spacing is so specific, it would kind of hard to believe that it wasn't one organism, and they're still kind of mysteries. They've been documented going back to the 60s in some of the first drop camera and bathysphere explorations. Polydictyon is what we call one of them, and that's kind of a pattern, a honeycomb pattern you see in the seafloor. And then there's another linear feature, and we still don't really know what causes them. There's been some concerted effort a couple times on Alvin dives to dig around and figure out what's underneath them and drop cores on top of them, and no one's recovered the organism yet that they're sure is what makes the patterns. And they can be, some of these patterns are well documented back into the Cambrian and Permian periods and seafloor sediment fossles. And they appear to be pretty much the same now that they were 300+ million years ago.
Have they ever tried dredging with a dredge on the ROV?
I don't know about a dredge, but I think they have taken a suction sampler and tried to suction through like a significant area of sediment.
We can rig our suction sampler for dredge mode for just bypass the jars.
I'm still pretty fascinated by the giant mound we investigated this morning.
So no, you didn't really get any clues there from?
No, other than I'm pretty sure it's biological in origin, just given how homogeneous the grain size was throughout it.
Pretty big mound.
Yeah, it was a pretty big mound.
You're out of ship move there, Dan.
Roger.
Been doing 100-meter steps.
Bridge nav 100360.
At 300 milliknots.
I'm gonna have to bring a blanket up here to sit in this chair. This is ridiculous.
I put sweatpants on under my jeans so I can sit in there.
Really?
Yeah. I just like, this morning I was frozen. I like went down to my cabin and laid in my bed and wrapped up for an hour.
What setting do we have the backup AC on anyways?
It's right now 19C cool.
No, I mean what setting is the unit on?
In terms of like
high, low, the fan speed.
Look. It's not fan speed. I think it's probably high. Oh look.
We could probably
pausing.
We could probably turn that one off and rely on the blowers. I thought that was for emergency backup.
In this climate, especially during the afternoon, we need both.
You want to zoom shrimp while we're here?
Yeah.
You reckon we need both?
Yeah.
Can we get a zoom, Amber?
It's zooming.
Oh, we're already landed. Okay, good. Pan down, or tilt down a little bit.
Super long-armed pneumatic Ursinus shrimp that are fairly common.
More. All right, go ahead and zoom. Wow.
Nice shot.
You gonna drop the lasers for a second, do a beauty shot?
Lasers off. Pew.
Can see this thing's basically, I won't call them shields because they don't offer much protection, but it's got its, it's full covered on all sides with early warning detection through all of its long legs and antenna. And it's got that really powerful tail muscle that if anything trips its burglar alarms, it just shoots out of there backwards. Because shrimp know they're tasty.
All right. You guys good?
Yep, we're good.
All right, full wide.
Full wide.
Pew.
Shouldn't that be a pew pew? Because there's two.
Yeah. The GUI on the FIO vehicle might do that when you turn the lasers on, against the wishes of the lead ROV guy.
No sense of humor whatsoever, apparently.
Yeah, no. And they have to leave there's audible alarms, so they have to leave the sound on. See, that's good software design right there. Leave the...
on Chilean vehicles, we figured out that the alarms were wave files.
Yeah.
So we started replacing them with all the Star Trek waves.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's what the alarms are on this vehicle.
Are
They
they?
started with that, yeah.
So great.
This one is like 30 seconds to self-destruct.
I was a little more subtle than that because I figured it would go no fun allowed as soon as the wrong person figured it out. But they're subtle enough that, like, unless you're already a Star Trek fan, you wouldn't notice. You know.
Yeah,
quite good.
We got away with it until the self-destruct one. That was over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got another shrimp. Shrimp and sponge.
Different. We were having a demo with some potential clients, and that alarm went up. And there was several emails as a result.
All right, let's get a zoom. Oh no, he's swimming away.
I love watching these swim. They're so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that is very cool. The little legs.
So this is an Aristiidae shrimp of some kind.
Let's not hit the.
What are the two like wings on the top of like the head or what
I believe those are called antenal scales.
Jason, put that
What's the name?
PTZ camera on the porch, please.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're for. Maybe they're a hydrodynamic thing?
Nice.
Oh, wow. I've never seen them just float like that without moving their
What's the biology
their
term?
little
Come on.
legs.
You're on the spot.
I'm trying here. No one needed to know.
Now we all need to know.
He's gliding. That's gliding.
Wow,
mode.
yeah.
We're going to go
I've never
down
seen
dust cloud.
seen one do that. Huh.
All right. That's the end of that. Full wide.
Full wide.
We got a second chance. Let's see if I can pull a Dan.
Oh, boop.
Bonk.
Nice.
Splatting biology on the main camera.
Man.
Well, do you know about the splat cam, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Measuring bioluminescence just with a
And
screen
Barry's
and a
splat cam.
camera behind it.
Yeah.
You just drive it through the water and things hit the mesh and flash. So
Reminds me of some of the bugs I hit in the airplane.
yeah, exactly.
I'm staggered to this day how many bugs you can hit at a few thousand feet up.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I see. It's like this summer. It was flying around in July, and it was like the Starfield screensaver with the bugs whipping by.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And I wasn't low. You expect it when you're down by the trees and stuff, but.
I recently learned that there's some of the biogeographic patterns in spiders is only explained by spiders spinning webs and wafting high into the atmosphere from continents to islands.
Yeah, so that was the other thing
Crazy
that I
to think
found.
about.
There was like a bunch of like silky stuff all over the wing after like flying after like a 3,000-foot cruise, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Maybe that's what it
Spiders.
could have been, huh? Wild.
Maybe.
Yeah, they get in the thermals and go for
can we-
days.
Pan down. And then tilt right slightly. There we go, perfect. Zoom.
Oh, man.
You are
Smoke is just coming out of Dan's ears.
It's another cup coral?
Oh, I went past your
I think
lasers.
that's
Sorry.
That's fine.
I
Okay.
think that's pretty similar to what we collected.
So you can go all the way in if you want.
The cup coral in sand.
Yep.
I never would have thought it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Is that one also
Wide.
specialized with
I don't know.
sand roots?
I don't know. I don't think there's, it's something I'm curious to look at, the one we already collected. When I've seen these before, I've used to seeing them in shallow sand, and I've always kind of assumed they were attached to a rock or hard ground
Yeah.
underneath the sand. So I'm real curious to look at the attachment point on the one we collected a couple hours ago.
Oh, you did get one of these guys.
Yeah, we slurped
Yeah.
one.
And like we see here that there's pebbles, so maybe the larva settled on a pebble.
Pan
Can you center
up.
the camera up a little bit?
Yep.
Yeah. So
But
tilt left and then pan up.
In shallow water, there are certainly sediment-dwelling, the fungiids, mushroom corals, and the shallows and stuff that do live in the sand and grow exclusively in the sand.
Yeah, there you go. So
it's totally possible that there are deep-sea versions of those as well.
You can actually look up just a little more on this flat stuff and get rid of some of the shadow on the bottom there. Allows Brian to see out further. Gives you more heads up on what's coming.
Yeah. Now that we lost the Johnny cam.
Yeah, I'm missing the upper WCA camera. I liked that one, the perspective that provided.
Yeah.
All right. Rocks.
So the story, you want to hear the backstory there?
Sure.
So we've had some issues with the fiber going through. We had to put an old spare slip ring in. A brand new one lost 2 of the fiber passes. And when we replaced put the brand new 4-pass slip ring in, we took the other one out and dropped it off at ONC in Canada, because manufacturers in Canada. So it's not on the boat. So we have an old spare. We took out
go ahead and zoom.
The old 421 winch. Anyways, the new slip ring suddenly lost 2 of its passes, 2 of its 4 passes, and we need 3.
Maybe a little tilt down there, Jaden.
But another cup coral.
Yeah.
2 actually, I believe.
Maybe one little
Tilt down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one you can see the
maybe zoom in a little more.
hard
There
attachment point.
That one's definitely on a rock.
Yep.
We could get the rock and the coral.
I think we've already got one of the cup corals, so. I guess that actually looks like an anemone. Can we tilt up just a smidge? Or is it? Yep. So that looks like actually an anemone, not another cup coral in the background. Good little. All right, we're good.
Tentacles.
Thank you.
Dan, can you reset the DVL?
Yeah.
It's been running fast. I don't know 100% what's going on.
So I forget how to do that.
Yeah, just hit send reset, and it'll ask you, are you sure about that? And then?
Oh, so it automatically homes to Herc.
Yeah, that's it. You don't.
A couple more of these really pretty metallogorgias.
Gonna get centered back up.
Generally, we think metallogorgias seem to be found more often in areas of lower current, which is pretty consistent with what we're seeing and experiencing here. You can see how fine the sediments are and the lack of, while they're heavily bioturbated, you don't see bed forms or anything that indicates a lot of current flow here.
No.
So that certainly builds upon my hypothesis that this is the lee side of this seamount right now. It's got a very low current, low energy current environment.
So you're saying all the corals are on the other side?
I would, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a strong part of me that would love to do a dive on the other side and test that hypothesis.
We know where they're not, right?
Yeah, we know where they're not. I'd like to say, we're pretty good at knowing where corals are not going to be, but we're not all that good at knowing where the corals are going to be. So there's a lot of these places that look really good by sonar that we get down here, and it's not awesome in terms of corals, but we've seen a lot of kind of cool sediment and a fair amount of fish. So this has been a coral light dive, but still been pretty interesting. I will say, looking at the bathymetry, as I'm guessing this is what we've got until the end of the dive. It looks like it's just going to get flatter.
We can deviate for sonar targets if you want to.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, well, this is our last waypoint too, so after this we're just going to start climbing contours, so with a lack of anything better to do.
Yeah, but we get that hard up for some substrate.
Yeah,
we could do an orbit spin too.
Oh yeah.
Get up to 30 meters. And
yeah,
let's do that.
What?
An orbit spin.
Yeah, all right. All right.
We'll have to trade back because I don't know how to operate that high-tech gizmo.
Alrighty.
There's a Eurydicordia.
Or we'll let Jaden.
Yeah.
Have a go. How do you feel about that?
I can try.
You can succeed.
Buckle
Come
up.
on. So one of my most fun moments in a control room was last dive of a cruise, the last 10 minutes of the cruise, we had an intern, and they're like, hey intern, why don't you fly the vehicle? So we're over this big sandy area, nothing else is going on, and they put the brand new pilot in the pilot chair. And not 30 seconds later, this like 6-meter Greenland shark flies right in front of the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And the new pilot, who has 30 seconds of experience, is like perfectly pirouetting and flying alongside this just epic Greenland shark. And the pilot is like, you want to switch back? And the newbie's like, no.
That's amazing. How lucky. Where was that?
Right off the coast. We were in Beach Canyon, just south of Rhode Island.
Wow. No way.
And
that was
you know what to do?
That was a Nautilus?
No, it was an Okeanos. And actually, if you look at the
you just
Wikipedia
like, if you want more
Greenland
beans, you
sharks,
push it that way.
that's the image
fewer
he
beans, you push it the
captured
other
in his
way.
first minute and a half of
I'm
flying.
gonna jump in here
way.
for a few minutes, so I can walk Jaden through her first 60 seconds so far is
that picture?
not touching the sticks, and as you see, her behaves perfectly when you see me take my hands off the sticks all the time.
Yeah.
So if you get in trouble, or you feel you're getting in trouble, just let go of it, and it just floats. As I understand it, we're going to come up. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get up to maybe like 30 meters.
Right. So that's a really bad habit to do, is pull back on that stick. So Herc is positively buoyant, and right now it's floating up at the rocketing rate of, go to our utility here, because it's coming up at 4 meters a minute.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Let me turn off the points. There we go.
Remember what I said about the Z bias? First thing you do when you sit down, what I do is, turn that off.
Okay.
And it should float up faster, because so you were actually thrusting down. So if you would have pulled back on the stick in that case, you would have just given it less down thrust. So when you see us pulling back, we're not actually thrusting up, we're just giving it less Z bias. So we're nulling the Z bias out manually, which is a really bad habit if you go on a horsepower ROV with more beams, more horsepower. And it'll come up quite quickly. So you're up at 20 meters now. So remember the double tap bug I talked about? So if you go to auto XY, and just to check, but we're going to go into, you want to be in auto depth or auto altitude, Chris?
Shouldn't matter.
Let's try auto altitude, since the vehicle will behave better. I also do that the first time I sit down, because I don't know what the last operator was using, auto depth or auto altitude. Typically we only use auto altitude when we have DVL beams, but sometimes not. So it's just a good habit to get into some of the quirks of this particular ROV system. And then for doing multi-beam mapping, I'll let you play around with heading a little bit. So right now the vehicle's not going anywhere, so watch your heading there, and just like come around to the north and then 45 and back the other way. Just play with it a little, see how it...
Is that
this
way or the...
Twist, twist is your heading. Rotate, you're rotating the joystick. So it's quite responsive in heading as opposed to some of the other functions.
Yeah.
I think we want to be north-ish.
Okay. Yeah, so all we got to do is basically just do a nice slow turn.
Oh, you want to do an orbit sweep?
Yeah, I think so. Unless
I thought you were going to map for a while. Oh,
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I voted. I thought we were just doing a bit of a sweep.
Yeah. That's kind of that's what I was thinking. Just
okay.
like it looks like there's some already. We're seeing some rocks off to the Off to the.
Oh yeah.
You're facing north right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, you want to twist that knob and see how slow you can get it to go.
Yeah.
So if you watch Chris's multi-beam over there, he's.
Even if you just let it coast, to give it a little tap and coast it, because it should be pretty.
Yeah, so just go as slow as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the beams are it's such a huge moment, so as you're turning, the end of that beam is,
Yeah, so 70...
Supersonic.
70 meters sort of northwest. 70 meters sort of northwest, we have some features. Or sorry, northeast. Turn off that. Let's turn on style, axis color, intensity, channel name, intensity. Don't use rainbow. Auto compute. Yeah. So it looks like. Yeah, I don't know. I assume we're looking for rocks and substrate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of an interface. We'll do some sediment, do some rocks. But yeah, let's see what else. Let's see what to the northwest first.
Or some northeast.
Yeah, I see that, but I was just saying.
Oh, you want to see what's over there?
Let's see what's over there before we make the decision to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you really only need to turn around 180 degrees. Don't need to do a full 360. So.
So for those of you at home, you can check out the bottom right corner of the quad on stream 3 and see what we're looking at with the Hercules multi-beam. And we're up about 25 meters off the bottom, letting the multi-beam get a better view out in front of us to see where there might be outcroppings of rocks up here in the sediment.
Some stuff out there. Oops.
This is the only way to fly. We ought to be using the multi-beam every time. It's remarkable.
We were last year. We had we were doing the seamounts, so we would norbit on the way down.
Like that, norbit is a verb.
Yeah.
We would norbit on the way down and then turn around, and by time we got to the bottom and turned around, Chris had the map processed, and Rennie pulled it into our nav here, which is normally this black screen, just a 2D. And all of a sudden I had a 3D map to fly by, and it was just a game changer.
I mean, and the world's best case scenario with all the time and money in the world is we'd map with the ship sonar, isolate kind of the area that might be interesting, and then send an AUV down to fly a 12-hour survey or something like that and give us a sub-meter scale map.
Yep.
And then come down with the ROV and really explore it.
On the best, spots.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense, Brian. And the age of drones, which we are clearly have entered into, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Un-AUV is old school, Brian. We'd send out the swarm of small vehicles that all have what Chris calls pods.
And are autonomous. And can
they would know where each other are.
And you could do that, Dan. You can actually do that just like they do in the air with those drones that create formations of light and create images of light. You could have a formation of drones underwater that are using green lasers to communicate with each other to keep their distance and communicate with each other at high speed. You're exactly right, Dan.
Yeah, Embari did a thing a couple of years ago. Brian's probably familiar with it. And they had, I forget the amount of autonomous vehicles flying around there in the Monterey Bay, which is, you know, deep. So it was like 20 something.
So is the, but the problem, Brian, is the drones become smaller, the water will become more viscous and difficult to push through.
You gotta get a lot smaller before that.
Right. But nevertheless, that
Copepod sized.
Yeah.
AUVs.
Well,
I'm not reinventing the wheel here. That's already being done.
it's already, who's doing it? Who started it?
Kongsberg is doing it.
It's absolutely.
Navy's been doing it for a while.
It's a great idea.
That's we've rotated enough.
Yeah, Chris, that bearing line you've got drawn on there looks perfect to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the commercial guys are doing it because, you know, it costs money to survey.
Oh, yeah. And you use the green lasers on the ROV because they penetrate the farthest and the clearest in the underwater?
There was a paper written years ago, so they're using a combination of lasers, acoustics, and optical. So there's like we've discussed, there's no one size fits all, and there's, you know, times where the water's too cloudy for a laser, and there's times where
right.
Laser gets faster, better communication than acoustic, and then and optical communication. We did a tech demo here. I think it was last year, year before last, where we put an optical modem on Argus and operated the Woods Hole Nui vehicle, and they did a they had someone on the beach doing a virtual, taking samples, all autonomous. You know, they're all way high tech. But anyways, the combination of the three,
right,
and the communication can, you know, take whatever one is the most optimal.
It makes great sense. So the Nautilus Ocean Exploration Trust could implement what Brian and you were just talking about here. Send out the use the multi-beam, identify a couple of broad targets of interest, send out the DRIX to narrow down a little more, and then send out an autonomous formation of underwater drones communicating with each other by green laser or acoustics, as you say, Dan, or whatever method of communications worked best to really go in at high resolution and identify the target, find the lost warship, to find the target you're looking at with high resolution, and then send down the ROV manned by humans, right? Is that what you're talking about, Brian?
Basically, yeah.
Totally.
That's spectacular. Technology's right there if they're already doing it. Where Dan is saying, the folks to perfect that and do it the best
you coming back down?
the Nautilus.
Come back down.
Yeah, you're good to come back down.
And Bob Ballard.
And you can take it one more if you want to really talk about pie in the sky kind of thing. You can take it one more.
Yeah, so bring it down
abstractions
and bring your heading back to north.
Multiple AUVs going in a chain with linking their data collection to make a massive synthetic aperture array to get extremely high resolution.
Use the stick.
Sonar.
Yeah.
How many? You can probably take it out of auto depth too. Yeah.
How many drones would that take?
Come out, take all your autos
you are
off,
way
so
past
auto depth off.
the ability of the biologist to give you any kind of a technical answer on that one. But you know, when you think about the way synthetic aperture array